Money Majors, episode 16. Welcome to Money Majors, your podcast for young entrepreneurs by a couple of awesome young entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Posey.
I'm Garrett.
And we're here going to give you the latest breakdown of the news and wonderful happenings in the world of young entrepreneurs, student entrepreneurs, and everybody in between, for the most part. How you doing, Garrett?
Sick. But I hope that doesn't come across in the recording. If I sound nasally or something, that's not my normal voice.
Not really nasaling. What I hear more is just this whistling noise in your nose in the pre-show.
Great. That's awesome.
We'll try to edit that out, maybe.
Okay. We need a noise filter.
So what do we got going on? I know that we heard back from our wonderful friends at Babson.
We did.
They've been very responsive. Unfortunately, the School of Management at George Mason University hasn't given us the time of day yet. But hopefully,
yeah, they've been a little slow, to put it nicely.
It's midterm, spring breaks. Hopefully, we'll hear back from them and we can do some work or hopefully do some outreach, maybe interview some young entrepreneurs at Mason, specifically in the School of Management. It was. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just because hopefully we'll get something over spring break. Because we sent out emails to about 30 people at Babson, got back a dozen responses. Sent 40 to Mason, got back 0.
Yeah, and I was like, was there a technical issue? Like, this is pretty bad. You know, that's a terrible, terrible response rate. So it wasn't. I found out, I think the emails got through.
Maybe your name is just on a blacklist.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's all right. But we've got wonderful things coming up, hopefully, in the next few weeks. Interviews with some interesting companies that we've met.
Mm-hmm. And right after South by Southwest, Z-Board, we're going to try to knock out a phone interview when they get back. They wanted to do it there, but we can't make it out there.
Did you just say knockout? Don't you mean wipeout? I'm sorry, that was terrible. Skateboarding. I try to interject for just one moment. Longboards.
Yeah.
Which is actually a story in here that talks about longboarding in today's lineup. I'm really interested in Z-Board, and I like their product a lot. But I went to check out a longboard at Walmart. Mm-hmm. I stood on it and broke it.
Oh my God, really?
Broke right in half. I don't know. I just have a lot of mass, I guess.
I think Z-Boards are more robust.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like their wheels, and they look a little more robust. So maybe that one, some kid had jumped up and down on it, but I said, oh, it's a longboard. I'm going to go check this out, because I was thinking of Z-Board.
Probably said like ages 3 to 6 or something on the side, and you're like, yeah, whatever.
It was about as tall as I am. Well, it was about 4 feet tall, and I just split. Whoops. That's the trials and tribulations of Walmart. Shopping in the Walmart toy section.
Next up, we've got the information security equivalent of Y Combinator, pretty much, is the DARPA Cyber Fast Track program. That's been on my personal radar, and that's for security individuals and boutique shops to apply. It's a research opportunity for short-term, like less than a year projects, where you can just apply. If they like your idea, they'll accept it, and it's a very quick turnaround. People are getting responses and signing contracts within a number of days, which is unusual in government contracting. So this is an interesting, pretty new program that I've been checking out, and it's pretty sweet. And finally, next, we've been applying to have our podcast listed in the Zune marketplace as well. And they've just not picked up on it, so we're wondering if they're dead, if they're on the decline, what's going on there.
Well, I remember that they killed off the Zune.
Yeah. I got one gathering dust.
Well,
so sad.
There's lots of people who are kind of, is the Zune marketplace just going out of style? But we're on iTunes, and you're able to, download directly off the website. So eventually we'll get up there. Maybe it'll come around.
Cool. Yeah, we're just checking out additional channels to distribute. If you have one that you prefer that we're not on yet, please let us know so it can get on our radar and we can try to get on it as well. Right now we've got direct downloads, we've got iTunes, and we've got YouTube. I think that's it.
Oh, those YouTube. That's becoming handy.
It's cool.
Indeed.
Awesome. So should we jump into the news?
By all means, and there is no news article I think that we've ever covered in the history of this show more appropriate for you than this first article, don't you think?
Well,
I'm serious. You're the man of this show. You're the face of Money Majors, and you're the guy that. Oh yeah, this is right up your alley, man. Go for it.
So first article is top 15 young female entrepreneurs and their rising companies. We'll select about 3 of them from the top of the list. First is Sarah Pravette, and she's got Sprouter.com, and I just signed up for it to check it out. Free sign up, but it's a kind of question and answer place for entrepreneurs to ask startup questions to get immediate responses. She found that there wasn't a place for her to get really quick responses, so she set up a site. It's got tens of thousands of users, and it's doing really well. So that's a place where you go to socialize and share tips if you're an entrepreneur, you're connecting with a young entrepreneur. Next up on our list is Catherine with myyearbook.com with her brother David Cook, and they grew it. It was a popular teen site and a top 30 website overall. The site has more than 25 million members. It was founded in 2005 and revenue of over 24 million. John, you told me there's a pretty aggressive revenue generating mechanism in there, right?
Yeah, when I would try to do my yearbook.
Well, what's the purpose first? It wasn't really in the description, but so it's basically like a Facebook for your graduating class of school?
Yeah, pretty much. If you were to try to search for, if you were to Google search friends from high school, you were to put in, Garrett McNamara and Andover, you would find, all these yearbook sites that talk about that would have the list of names of students as relation to their schools. So it's doing what Facebook used to do. Facebook started off as being for college. My Yearbook is the social network for the tween market, teens who are connecting through high school and recent graduating classes. It's what's called a social discover website, and it kind of provides the opportunity to kind of interact, meet new people, kind of dating, but keeping that demographic of high school. My Yearbook.
Catch up with your high school crush,
Yeah,
see if you got a second chance sort of thing. Interesting.
But they're growing pretty fast, and they get their revenue model essentially from 3 sources: advertising, virtual currency sales, and monthly subscriptions. And every time I tried to use it, I kept running into paywalls of, find out who's been looking for you at myyearbook.com.
And that's where you buy into virtual currency and then kind of use it to get these features, I guess?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, monthly subscriptions, and it wasn't for me.
Okay. Well, and then last that we'll mention, and there's plenty more on this list if you want to go back, but Justine Ezerick. She is the...
Justine.
The definition of an internet celebrity. She has a ton of Twitter followers, over 1.2 million, 400,000 plus Facebook fans, almost 1 million subscribers on her YouTube channel, and she's been creating viral comic videos online. It was in 2009. It was estimated that her videos were viewed by over 64 million times, and she makes over $75K a year just from YouTube alone on their commission, which I think is pretty interesting. So here's someone who produces content that's widely desired, and then is able to capitalize on that by using YouTube in their commission structure. So not really setting up a business to run a business, but rather having content first, and then being able to make money off that, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would always hear about iJustine on some of the podcasts that I listen to, like This Week in Tech, and I would hear her talk about some of the fun things that she does to market herself, like going to the Mac store and turning on the webcam of one of the MacBooks, the Apple Store, excuse me, and dance in front of the camera. So she actually got kicked out of one.
For being too energetic?
Not really, but there was something on the news here that she walked into an Apple store, she turned on the webcam of the video and started dancing and singing to a song, and everyone's staring at her and everything. And she was streaming that to a site, and she got kicked out. So, she uses her good looks and sex appeal to sell. And I think that's a wonderful quality that women have that you and I will never be able to match. If you just get right down to it. So
we're not pretty enough, John.
I'm definitely not pretty enough.
All right.
But I try.
Well, let's step into some old school stuff then, some hard numbers and some concepts. What's your next article?
I've got an article here from Under Theory CEO on 5 marketing rules that every young entrepreneur should know. And they're kind of old school marketing rules that you might not actually think about. It's ones that have kind of stood the test of time. The first is called the 40-40-20 rule, which constitutes the response for a marketing campaign. And it basically says that in a marketing campaign, 40% of your success of that campaign is due to the audience, 40% is due to the actual product or the offer that you're trying to pitch, and only 20% is your creativity. Now, this was come up in the 1960s. It was thought up in the 1960s by a fellow named Ed Mayer, who was a guru around direct mailing. Those direct mail flyers and things that we still get to this day in our mailbox. But the gist of the 40-40-20 rule, especially in today's market, is that think of it as a triangle. You have on the bottom of the triangle, on the left you have 40, on the right you have 40, on the top you have 20. You want to get your audience with the right offer at the right time. And then that little cap on top, the 20%, just is the little thing. Marketing, being creative, having good fonts and colors, it's good, but it's not everything. It's giving the right product at the right time. And so the lesson to understand about the 40-40-20 rule is that be sure to, you understand exactly who your audience is, and then essentially that you have permission to market to them. You are able to, you can find them using today's technology, and you're able to market them and get to them at that perfect moment. A lot of these deal sites that we see, like Groupon, are trying to perfect that method, or trying to find a group of customers and take this idea over here, and we want to put them together at the right time. So that was interesting. The second one is RFM, which stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value. Essentially, that's recency is when's the last time someone's bought something. Frequency, how often do you buy, and how much money are they spending. Customers who have bought recently, buy often, and spend a lot are kind of the top tier of customers for a business, as everybody knows that. But your customers are not all created equal. So the idea of recency, frequency, and monetary value is to segment your customers. Segment the ones who are the buy once in a while, buy often, buy occasionally, who spends a lot versus who spends very little. By segmenting your customers and, more importantly, your prospects, you can provide a more relevant message. And this article cites companies that continue to send out the same email, the same advertisements, time and time again, without segmenting their customers.
And they send it to everyone.
Send it to everyone, yeah. The other one is the Pareto principle, which is simply 80-20. And I didn't know this. I'd heard of this, but I didn't know where it came from. But Mr. Vilfredo Pareto in Italy back in the 1900s just kind of stumbled on this idea that essentially 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population. Pretty novel concept. But then he started seeing this 80-20 thing all over the world. If you look at most businesses with repeat customers, you will find that about 80% of the sales or profits comes from about 20% of the customers. You'll find that 20% of your products make up about 80% of your sales. And the important thing to understand about this is that you want to use this 80-20 rule to understand and identify the minority that provides the majority. And vice versa, finding if a lot of your customers are buying a small product, how do you take that majority of buying the small, and how do you flip them and turn them into a majority buying a majority? So you play around with the ideas, but 80-20 is a good rule to remember, and it's good to understand where your sales are coming from and exactly who they're coming from as well. AIDA, A-I-D-A, is another one that's very well known. It stands for attention, interest, desire, action. Think of those as the steps that you as a consumer takes when you're going to purchase something. You're walking into the store, you turn, you see a giant display of the M&Ms. You got your attention. Your interest, M&Ms, they look really good. And then your desire, I really want some chocolate. So you pick it up and you buy it. So you've just gone through attention, interest, desire, action. And it's that whole process of getting the customer's attention and sucking them into the product, and knowing how that works, and running your own product and service marketing plan for that through that process of, okay, here's my product. Where's the attention? How do I generate the interest? How do I create the desire? And how do I get them to cross that gap into action? I think that's probably the secret sauce of marketing, I think, right in there. Last is essentially dollars are greater than percentages. And this was kind of a roundabout way I thought of saying, essentially this rule says when you're having a sale, it's better to say $10 off rather than 25% off. Mm-hmm. Because percent, when you use something like percent off, or you get X percent for X dollars, percent makes the customer stop and do math.
They don't want to do math.
Nobody wants to do math. And percentages often kind of have a feeling of deceit. Mm-hmm. Like 25% off, there must be a problem here. They must have raised the price by 30%, marked it down 25, so I must have gotten something. But when you say a dollar figure, it's a finite number that people can immediately understand and relate to. So that's the rules of the article, and I think you should definitely dive back into some of those rules and some of those old school marketing rules of the old days about some of these things that people did to sell items, and then how we've taken those ideas like 80-20 and 40-40-20 and brought them into the current market. We were just talking before we started the show about a book I'm reading. I picked up this. Well, first I heard it on the radio. Heard the interview with the author on the radio, and the book is called "The Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business," and it's by a guy named Charles Duhigg, excuse me, and this is directly related here, that the book is about habits and how people create habits, how our brain creates and manages habits, and essentially everything we do in life is a habit. And that's another way of saying it's a learned process that we go through. Way back in the day, there was a toothpaste called Pepsodent. And you and I are both way too young to remember what Pepsodent was. But Pepsodent was this toothpaste. Back then, people didn't really brush teeth. And
this was a long time ago.
A very long time ago. People didn't really brush teeth. So when they were looking at Pepsodent, the makers of Pepsodent tried to get, tried to find a way to sell Pepsodent and try to get people to use Pepsodent. And so they stumbled, not stumbled, but one of the guys went to a very famous marketing person and asked for his help in trying to get him to sell Pepsodent. And so this guy went off and he researched, and he had, up until that point, he had perfected this idea of habits, and trying to get people to do things, that whole, attention, interest, desire, action, to try to get people to go through that process of habits. So when they talked about Pepsodent, he said that the guy that he got to do the marketing for him came up with this interesting idea about the film on your teeth, and how everyone has a film on their teeth. We all know it. You have it, I have it, but it's an immediate thing. So he went to a guy named Charles Hopkins, and Hopkins helped figure out that essentially that you have this film on your teeth. So if we advertise to people and say, hey, you know that film on your teeth? Well, here's how you getting rid of it by using Pepsodent. You'll get rid of the film and you'll have a beautiful smile. So he got people into the habit of saying, there's a film on my teeth. Gotta brush my teeth. They brush their teeth, gets rid of the film, everybody wants a pretty smile. So it's an old school marketing idea that we still use very much this day. Creating habits, getting people to buy things, it all kind of makes together. So that was a long way of saying that, of going off topic there a little bit, but I thought that was just a great example of all these marketing techniques. Nonetheless.
Sweet.
For the most part, I think. So
yeah, it was good to go back to some rules.
Good. Well, I didn't want to bore. I think I was boring you there.
No.
It's I found it interesting because it kind of relates to the old school rules of marketing and understanding how we came up with all these marketing campaigns that we use today. So, moving along, the next one we've got up is from Fox Business, and it's entitled Budding Entrepreneurs, Advice for College Grads Looking to Become Their Own Boss. The article kind of starts off talking about an interesting woman named Shamba Kambani. She's a 26-year-old CEO of the Marketing Zen Group, and she also wrote a book called The Zen of Social Media Marketing. And she explained that when she graduated from University of Texas in 2008, she had 18 companies reject her. And she was repeatedly told that her specialty area of study, which was social media marketing, would never, ever take off in the business world.
Yeah, there were like 2,000 Twitter followers at the moment.
At the time, yeah. Now there's 300 million. But eventually it did, and she proved them all wrong. Mm-hmm. And she showed that if you find something you're passionate about and you really work at it, it actually could become an interesting business. So Fox asked her and other young entrepreneurs that kind of seemed like they kind of followed a very unique path and became very successful. What are some of the tips that self-made entrepreneurs could recommend to these hopeful college grads who kind of want to become their own boss? And number one, find something you're passionate about. When you're looking to pursue something, don't just pursue it because you think there's money into it. Like how doctors and lawyers, become a doctor to make money or a lawyer to make money. Find something you're really passionate about. And if you're really passionate about it, you're more likely to find a way to make a lot of money out of it. The second one that they talk about is know how to network. I've never been good at networking. You're an expert at networking, Garrett.
Really?
Yes.
You were never good at it?
I was never really good at networking because it seems
like you're not allowed on the hill if you're not good at it. Or am I wrong?
That's why I didn't like the hill.
Huh.
That's why I formed my own company. Is that networking requires a constant schmoozing, constant connections. It's easier with Facebook. You can network much better with Facebook, but when you're just emailing people around and you're constantly having to email people, it tends to get a little exhausting. Mm-hmm. And building a good network takes a lot of time. So it's forgetting where my deficiencies are. If you don't know how to network, learn how to network. Find already successful business people, in your specific field and learn from their techniques and their experiences. Contact them, go to their seminars, read their articles, go to their blogs or websites. It's like James Altucher. I like James Altucher and I follow his Twitter and I respond and I read his blogs. And I, try to network in his universe of people who are interested in what he has to say. Find a mentor, get the mentor's help to get into their network and things. So even if you're not good at networking like me, you can still network. You just have to come at it in more creative ways. Use social media to your advantage. Facebook, Twitter, MySpace. Maybe not MySpace.
If you're an artist, maybe.
No, okay. If you're an artist. Main one's Facebook and Twitter.
I had to save them somehow.
Facebook had very recently, they all of a sudden had 1 million people sign up. They don't know where they all came from.
Facebook?
No, I'm sorry, MySpace.
Yeah, I was going to say they had a big growth, and then maybe people are dropping off. I don't know. I read a critical article about them the other day. It was more about the people on MySpace than the site itself. Like it was overloaded with spammers or something. I don't really know.
It's turning into a good place for music though. So if you're definitely into the entertainment business and music, mm-hmm. It is turning to the place where independent artists are still flocking to, mm-hmm. and still setting stuff up.
Totally.
One that we like, that we always use, Garrett, learn from feedback, good or bad. Agree or disagree with it. Take all feedback and at least give it its due. Give it its hearing. Listen to feedback, even if you don't agree with it at all. Still by just listening to it and think a little bit about it, puts it in your consciousness so that you can mold that feedback into something more productive. And the final one that they talk about in the article, which I think is epic, is learn patience.
Yeah.
If you don't have patience for this stuff, especially in business, it's going to drive you absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I'm a pretty impatient person.
Yes, you are. How many speeding tickets? Never mind.
So many.
So yeah, so some very interesting points that you can delve into. Each one of those points you could write whole books on of things, but get into it. I think it'd be very helpful. What have you got?
I got an infographic, so I'm going to do my best to portray that.
Convey a graphic in words.
Yeah, but it's from Mashable, and we'll have a link on the site if you want to check it out in full. But it's called The Pitfalls of Freelancing. One of the biggest ones was on average freelancers were stiffed about $6,000 from clients. I've dealt with that before. It was awesome. But yeah, so it's typically 60% of freelancers are women, 40% are men. A third of American workers are working independently, and that's either by freelancing, temp working, part-timing, or being an independent contractor. The majority of freelancers are highly educated. 20% of freelancers have a master's degree, while the general population is only 8%. It's popular across all generations, from millennials, Gen X, and boomers. There's a good representation there. The top 10 in-demand freelancers right now, number 1 is PHP programmers, which is interesting. I know PHP. I should maybe freelance. 2 is WordPress programmers. 3 is article writing, so content generation. I know people in demand for this right now. 4 is graphic design. 5 is HTML programmers. 6 is CSS. 7 is MySQL databases. 8 is Photoshop. 9 is blogs, and 10 is JavaScript. And those, again, were the top 10 in-demand freelancing types of positions. What else?
Coding.
I mean,
it's like Code Academy.
Yes.
If you can program, you can do anything.
A lot of IT demand. But unfortunately, I'm seeing here on this infographic, 8 and 10 didn't get enough work in 2009. Some of them were dipping, about half of them were dipping into their savings. So there is a drawback, but for some people it does work out. For some freelancers, they were able to increase their income. So yeah, I mean, it's not. There's perks, like you get to be your own boss, you get to call your own shots, you make your own schedule. But again, you're pursuing the contracts. There's no guarantee, yada yada. So it's good and bad. I've done it, and I continue to do it when I have free time, but I'm not a full-time freelancer by any means.
Well, I think we all do a little bit of freelance, but we do it more of a structured way. I have a company and I freelance, and I'm constantly looking for jobs to do, and especially the small ones where you can do it for a set price. Get in, get the price, get out type of thing. I think it's a good way to do it.
Totally. Yeah, so next up, let's see what we got here. Entrepreneurs are the cool kids on campus, allegedly.
Another one made for you.
Yeah, I do it because it's cool. So with young entrepreneurs, student entrepreneurs, the article saying that the desire was there to be independent, to be innovative, and to give back to the community. These are the principles of entrepreneurship. In 2010, about 5.5% of Americans ages 18 to 24 were actually starting their companies, compared with 11% of 25 to 34-year-olds, which is the most entrepreneurial cohort. So right before that, that 35-year mark that kind of arbitrarily declares you a young entrepreneur. For comparison, in 2007, only 2.2% of business owners were under 25 years old. There's been a lot of studies into these numbers that show an increasing number of people starting companies. That could be because of the dip in the economy in the recent years. It's been one identified factor where people are not able to get a position, so they're like, well, screw it, I'm going to make my own company. People who have a job and that's not really paying the bills, or it's not paying enough, or it's not giving them enough financial freedom to do what they want, will start a job or a company as well on the side to be able to kind of get to like a different level of lifestyle to kind of supplement what they already do. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, it's just a 2-page article. Pretty interesting stuff here, though. No. But I don't, I think that I got a little bit of a problem with it where, I don't know. I don't want entrepreneurship to seem like the cool thing to do and people to just jump in because they think it's cool. Like, those people will not last.
That's competition.
Well,
that's competition.
Everyone's competition. But, Yeah, I don't think it should be just done because it's cool. Like you won't last. Entrepreneurship's tough. You're going to spend a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on this. And if you're just doing it to seem cool, then that's bad. But there's it's definitely for some people. So give it a shot. What do we got next? Oh, I'm still on. Huh. Let's see. So yeah, we got actually, this is interesting. In addition to, we're going to talk to Zboard, and they do motorized skateboards out of California. We've got Stoked Skateboards. It's a skateboard empire. Let's see what we got here. This individual, a student, Southern California, named David Rajewski. He wanted to own a car. He was 16. His dad was not just going to give him a car, but he did give him a $1,000 loan. And his dad, with that, pushed him to start his own business. And he says he loves skateboarding. It's his biggest hobby. Obviously, he's passionate about this. He'll see this idea through. He did see the idea through. In 2011, the company made over $708,000 in sales. And while sales for 2012, the current year, are expected to exceed $1 million. That's very interesting. So he went from $1,000 to potentially over $1 million in sales this year. Very quick. He started this in 2007. The company warehouse is located in Torrance, California. And he says, he goes to the warehouse maybe 2 to 3 times a week after school. He studies, he goes to business school, and he says the rest of the time he manages the company remotely. And I think that's great if you have over $1 million in sales and you only go to the warehouse 2 to 3 times a week. To me, that seems pretty sweet. He says it's like having a job after school. And I think that he's being modest there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot of fun. I mean, you could also say that for the person who walks from one part of their living room to the other, as I do for my company. It's like, yeah, I go to the warehouse 3 times a week. Yeah, I walk through my living room and get some work done, and on my way somewhere else. So last up on the list is what I thought was a really great article. It's from Inc. magazine, and it's entitled "Luxury Outhouse for Dogs: The PetLawn." This is another kind of in a series called some of the coolest companies started at a university. From Inc. magazine, and this one's about 2 Chapman University sophomores who are working to improve dog and owner relationships everywhere. Now, I have 2 cats, so I'm hoping that they can come out with something similar for cats. But for dogs, they kind of stumbled onto this problem that one of them had about when you take a dog who's used to a yard and you move them into a living room, it can be a little crappy for the dog. Be frustrating for the dog. I think if you're a dog who's used to running around the backyard, to suddenly be cooped up in an apartment all day, might not be such a good idea. So you have to kind of walk the dog out and have to mingle with all the different smells and odors and other pet markings out there in the around your apartment complex. So they came up with something called the PetLawn, and it's essentially a pee pad topped with artificial grass that allows dogs to use the bathroom indoors. Now, when I first read that, I thought that can't be good. I
see a lot of casualties and collateral damage coming out of this.
But it really does work. They came up with a really interesting design that is it's a drainage system, and it has a silver-based antimicrobial compound that helps absorb moisture and eliminate odor. Instead of other products which are similar, where you just have the fake grass and the grass just sits in the dog urine, the PetLawn is specially designed so the dog can go and squat on the grass, and then everything drains down into a pee pad, which lasts about 5 days. And they talked about that when they started this, they thought, we'd only need $20,000. But as things continued to ramp up and people began to take notice, those costs skyrocketed to $200,000. But it didn't really frighten them that much because they were getting a lot of feedback and were finding that their product was really in demand. So they came up with the name International Pet Solutions, which I kind of like, and debuted their kind of products in 2010 at a trade show. And they didn't just come up with one product. They came up with a whole suite of products, and each one complements the other and complements the main PetLawn product. So I thought that was really cool, just having a cat and knowing what it's like to deal with animals. I had a dog as a kid, and I see so many people who live in apartment buildings with dogs, and the poor dog stays cooped up in that apartment, sometimes in a cage, all day long. You come home and let him out. It can't be very much fun, but I thought that was really, really cool. And they also, another thing these guys, really smart idea that these guys did was they essentially saw a market, and they saw a series of similar products that were really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to take something that they were passionate about because they had a personal interest in it. They found that they could make the product better for cheaper and sell it at a lower price point.
Yeah, I'm reading here that comparable products are about $300, and theirs are anywhere from like $119 to $149, so effectively half.
Yeah,
half as expensive. That's cool.
Yeah, they're pitching investors for capital to help kind of meet the increased demand,
Mm-hmm.
And they anticipate selling up to $500,000 in product this year, and they probably project being profitable within 2 years. So that's really good because lots of people would like to have pets. I'd love to have a dog. I'd love to have more than one dog, but I would never have a dog in an apartment because Lord knows I'd have to take the poor kid out there and to the lawn. So I don't know. So maybe this will help more people who are concerned about having their pet in an apartment and wrestling with should they get rid of their pet or can they really live in an apartment with a pet. And this might make it a little easier for them.
What I think was interesting about this was I'm reading that they, quote, kind of faked it when they were at the pet product show in Las Vegas called Super Zoo. I didn't know about that. I'm assuming you didn't know about that.
Garrett, there's a trade show and a convention for everything.
I'm learning that. That's cool.
I am serious. There are a lot of things out there you could say this about, but on the internet, there's a famous list that you can look up on your own called the rules of the internet. And
Yes.
one of them essentially says, if you can think of it, it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think of it, I'll bet you money that there is a convention or a trade show somewhere for it. People make money off of it. There's a trade show for it.
That's awesome.
It's absolutely out there.
But what they were saying is that they just had samples and they acted like they had all this stuff in inventory, which is hilarious. And that reminds me, I'm still working on the Steve Jobs bio. I'm really bad about finishing books.
Yep.
And I think it was for one of the original Macs, but they only had like 3 working ones, so he had those on display for a product demo or a trade show or something, and then he had like all these empty boxes kind of like in the back by his backdrop to make it look like they had inventory for miles sort of thing, and they were just empty. So that's hilarious.
Sometimes a startup is a little bit of sleight of hand. I don't mean that in a bad way, but sometimes you have to put your best face forward and do your best to prove your viability. And sometimes it takes a little sleight of hand of faking it, but we're not encouraging that, of course. But sometimes you might have to. So, nevertheless, that wraps up episode 16. Despite Garrett's wheezing and munching from the bag of trail mix.
Yeah, I apologize, listeners, if I sound really bad and I disturbed you.
I'm sure they're used to it by now, but it's quite all right. We've made it through episode 16, and as always, if you have anything you'd like to tell us, love us, hate us, have comments, have complaints, have something that we probably made wrong and you want to correct, please, by all means, send us an email to podcast@moneymajors.net. Send us something over on Twitter @moneymajors. Head us up on Facebook, facebook.com/moneymajors. And last but not least, you can find our show notes and all sorts of other interesting random information at our website, www.moneymajors.net. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Money, 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 all I ever hear these days. Every song that the DJ plays, talking of a similar situation. Ain't got none and got to get some. Gotta have more than I had before. Gotta have more than the man next door. Every day I gotta make some more, some more, some more. Well, give me a break, yeah, or let me take some time out. Gotta frisk my mind out before I lose my life now. Give me a break.